Story 1. Wife demanded a divorce for her wealthy lover, but then he lost everything and she wanted me back. At 32, I'm married to my wife, 27F, for almost 6 years now. We've been together for 8 years and 3 months. We are living together for 7 years now. It was, in my opinion, always great. I really feel like we were the perfect couple. We both have a car, good jobs, stable finances, and we bought a house 5 years ago in February 2022. I unfortunately, very unexpectedly, lost my mother to a heart attack. What followed were very rough months for me, but also for my wife, who was also very close to my mother. And by rough, I mean really rough. In 6 months' time, we only went out like 2 times. We always stayed in and just relaxed on the couch and chilled watching TV. I wasn't, due to circumstances, happy, but I expected we would get through this. D-Day, as I see everyone call it, was 5 weeks ago. My wife went out drinking with 3 male friends from work about 5 minutes away from our house. I was like, okay, cool, but I'm going to bed soon. Middle of the night, 3:30. She came home with the 3 guys. I know all of them, and said she was going out in the city with them. I didn't like it, but couldn't stop her. Everything closes at 4 o'clock, but even though it's a 15-minute ride, she came home at 5:30. That's when my suspicions began, even though before this night I never mistrusted her. Today, 4 weeks ago, she left the entire Sunday, said she was going to some carnival with her mom. I did not trust it, but what can you do? She even left without saying goodbye while I was taking a shower. Later that day, when she came home, she entered our house crying. My first response was, "Honey, come here, what happened? Did something happen? What's got you so upset?" Her literal first words at that moment were, "I want a divorce." After that, we talked a bit about it, both very emotional. I straight up asked her if she cheated, but she said no. She told me she's been unhappier for a longer period of time and hence the divorce. She literally never told me something was wrong with our relationship, so this came as a complete shock to me. Anyway, after the talk, she left and she lives at her mom's house now. For days later, I saw her again because we had a dog for which I alone cannot take care of, and neither can she at her mom's house, so our dog stays at an aunt's house now. Anyway, because I saw her, I confronted her about cheating again, and this time she admitted it. She told me she cheated on me for the entire week since she went drinking until the week later when she left home. She said she thinks she is in love with him. I asked what's so great about him, and the only thing she says is, "Yes, we have a good connection/spark. So that's it, I suppose." She also said she feels like she is going through some sort of midlife crisis, doesn't know what to do with her life, doesn't know what she wants. In my opinion, she's going crazy. She dyed her hair purple and all out of nowhere she signed up for lessons to drive a motorcycle the first week or maybe 2 weeks after. I tried reconciling, if that's the right word, but she wouldn't budge. Every serious message I sent her got straight up ignored. Casual messages I do get a reply on, but it's short responses with arrogance, I guess. I seriously do not recognize my wife anymore. Her personality seems to have changed in literally 1 week's time. She is treating me as if I never existed in her life and like I'm some piece of garbage. Is this some kind of defense mechanism to make it easier for her, pushing her problems towards the future? Or could it be she really changed and feels this way now? How on earth is this possible? I mean, I know falling in love is an awesome feeling, but what happens with her in a few months when the honeymoon phase with this guy is over and she really wakes up from it all? I've been experiencing a lot of mixed feelings. Really a lot. I resent her for the fact she cheated on me and I'm really disappointed, but I also realize and know that the fundamental basis of our marriage was always great. From D-Day to today, we are 5 weeks further. She is still not officially filed for divorce, and neither have I. I'm not sure, but I'm fairly certain she is still seeing the guy she cheated on me with. To be honest, at this moment, I'm torn between wanting to save our marriage and just ending it. At this moment, I honestly do not care if we get back together or if we divorce, so I honestly don't know what to do. If I file for divorce now, I might regret this in the future for being too fast, I suppose, but I also cannot keep living in this sort of limbo in which I'm officially still married but she already left. Edit. The first 4 days after she left, I was still not sure whether she was cheating on me or not. Those days were the absolute worst because, yes, those days I felt extremely guilty and felt like I messed it up, but after she admitted the cheating, those feelings started to fade away. And even though I might be to blame somewhere, our marriage ending is 100% her fault. She never showed me she wasn't happy. She looked happy. She could make a good actress. She never talked about being unhappy and what should change, and then to top it all, she cheated and continues to do so. This is done. I do not anymore believe there is a way back from this. Also, at the moment, I do not even miss her. Sure, sometimes I still miss who and what we were as a couple, but this woman she's become, honestly, I almost feel sorry for the next guy whose heart she is inevitably going to break. Honestly, my mom's passing, I'm dealing with quite well. Of course, I have other concerns, etc. at this moment, but still, I was really just getting out of the down and crawling back up, wanting to go outdoors, have drinks, have fun, ride my motorcycle, etc. But yes, then she cheated and kicked me back in the ravine, so to speak. It'll be fine with time. Must admit, I am really not looking forward to the holidays. No mom, no wife. My dad is alone after 40 years of marriage, but we'll deal with it. Life goes on and on. Luckily, I do have a very sweet sister and a very good group of friends who I've known for over 20 years. I am nowhere near ready to dive into single life again, but somewhere I'm also a bit excited. It's been more than 8 years since I dated, more than 8 years since I've gone out without checking with my partner. Of course, I fell as deep as possible this year, but I truly believe there are good times to come. One of the Redditors is absolutely right about us marrying too young. I was 26 when we married. She was 21. I haven't changed all that much in those years, but it might indeed be that she has changed a lot and suppressed those feelings for a long time. Note, she herself said she feels like she has a midlife crisis. Those are not my words, but hers. To go a bit more in depth about mutual interests, hobbies, traits, etc., all I said in the post is that we had a stable life. I didn't go in depth because I didn't think it would matter all that much, and besides, the post is already quite long. But here goes. Hobbies and interests. We both like gaming, but we actually never play together. At the moment, I'm into Age of Empires 4, playing on my PC, and then she would play The Witcher on PS4. We both liked watching a good Netflix show, especially since Mom died. We did that a lot, but even before that, we both rather stayed in together to watch a good movie instead of going out drinking. We did occasionally go out to the cinema, pooling in approx once or twice a month. We went out for dinner. We both like motorcycles. I have my license and a bike. She did not. She always loved sitting on the back seat of the bike, riding passenger when she was young. Her dad also took her on rides on his bike, but apparently now she also wants her own license and bike. Did not know. We both like spending time with our families. Usually every other Sunday we would hang out at either her mom's plus stepdad, her dad plus stepmom, or at my father's house. We liked driving to some nice nature and forests and took our dog with us and going for walks. Personality traits. I liked how impulsive she could be. Well, apparently she's too impulsive, but okay. I sometimes overthink things too much, thinking about whether we should buy it, taking into consideration if we really like it, how our finances are at that moment, etc. She would just buy it in a snap or book that vacation I was having doubts about. I really like that. On this, we are complete opposites. I realize I think she does love her humor. We really have an amazing connection with humor. We have exactly the same dry, corny humor, and we always had fun together. I loved her honesty and how straightforward she always was until things went downhill. She would always tell me how she felt, what she liked and didn't like. For example, about 4 years ago, I got addicted to a video game. I at that time didn't notice I was doing anything wrong, but after a few weeks, she told me I wasn't making her happy, and I really had to put more attention towards her in our relationship, which I did. I then cut down the gaming to a bare minimum. Bro, I love the way she talks, the way she walks, the way she laughs. I love her looks. She has an amazing crap. I loved it that when she sneezes, it's always 8 to 10 sneezes in a row. But as of right now, all those feelings I had/have are rapidly fading away. As for our sex life, I can be pretty short. We didn't have sex all that much. I'd say an average of 2 times per month since we were married. In my opinion, it was always good, though not sure about her opinion on the matter now. That I'm thinking of it, we always both climaxed unless she faked, but I don't think so. but the sex itself wasn't all that exciting. We'd usually do the same 3 to 4 poses, and that's it. Update 1. Okay, so yesterday I made some calls in the Netherlands. We have something called a mediator. They handle all aspects of divorce, so this mediator does the lawyer's work, financial, emotional talk, etc. It's like an all-in-one kind of person that helps two people with arranging the divorce. Today, we had the talk with this mediator. Unfortunately, my soon-to-be ex's car broke down, so I had to pick her up. And yes, I really had to, for this all to work and get the divorce through this mediator. It is crucial that both me and my soon-to-be ex are at the meetings with him. Anyway, the talk went pretty good in the way I expected. We both expressed our feelings about wanting to get divorced, but the infidelity was never mentioned. This mediator is neutral and does not pick sides, so I did not think it was worth mentioning. Also, in the Netherlands, we have no laws against cheating. She still has the same rights that she would have had if she did not cheat. So after the mediator left, we are still sitting together at the table, barely talking. Only distraction we have is from our cats running around. So after a few minutes, I asked her, "Have anything left to say?" To which her response was, "No." So I said, "Okay, then I think you can go now because I don't want you here." "Okay, can you take me home?" I said, "No. How you're getting home is your own problem. I am not in the mood to drive 30 minutes taking you home." After this, she looked a bit emotional. I think she expected me to drive her home, as normally in the past I did everything for her. So after that, she called her mom, who's picking her up in about an hour from now. She is out of the house now. She said, "I'm going to take a walk for about an hour until mom gets here to pick me up." While she left, she still looked hurt and visibly emotional, but while I'm staying strong, I still notice a lot of strange behavior on her part, and I think she is still in the affair fog. Despite everything, I still love her for who she was. But for now, I'm staying strong and I'm treating her as if she means nothing to me. Edit. Actually, as of right now, she doesn't mean anything to me. She simply is not the woman anymore that I loved and was loyal to. Edit. I have a question, but it requires a bit of backstory. I've worked as a driver at a transport company, let's call it Supertrans, for 11 years. For months ago, I quit that job and started a new job at another transport company. I got my wife a job at the Supertrans about 1.5 years ago. She works at the office there. I was a driver. I also know her AP, as he works in the warehouse at Supertrans. Because I've worked there for 11 years, I also know everyone that works at Supertrans office. Everyone liked me and I was best friends with some of the dispatch guys. As far as I know, my previous coworkers, her current coworkers, do know that we are getting divorced, but as far as I know, no one knows that she has/had an affair with AP, who works in their warehouse. My wife's direct coworker, who works at the desk next to her, is a gay 32-year-old guy who was also present at the night out when my wife cheated. I will call him Thomas. He left early, though. He was one of my favorite people at their office, and he also liked me a lot. My wife has vacation now and will start working again next Monday. I know Thomas likes me a lot and would wish only the best for me. I'm now very strongly thinking about sending a message to Thomas, explaining what happened and all, and also revealing the affair to him. Of course, I want to tell him just to warn him that my wife has no morals and cannot be trusted. I mean, Thomas has to work with her every day. I want him to know what kind of person my wife is, and I also intend to tell him about who the AP is because Thomas was also going out with them the night my wife cheated. So I want Thomas to know how big of a crap without morals the AP is. And yes, I do realize this may seem like I want to take some sort of revenge, and I suppose I do. This woman has put me through hell. A few weeks ago, I would love to hear about her having a crap day at work next Monday because all her coworkers know she betrayed me and has an affair for real. Everybody liked me. I've known most of her office for plus 10 years. Besides, I get to decide who I tell about her cheating and who not. So okay, basically this isn't a question I wanted to ask. Should I do this? But I think I've already made up my mind. Would like to hear what y'all think about it and why I should or shouldn't. Update 2. All of you have been an amazing help in my situation. I must admit, I'm feeling very tired mentally, but apart from that, I'm doing better than I would have expected after only 6 weeks. I have a question about my soon-to-be ex-wife's current behavior. Is it normal that my wife, soon-to-be ex, treats everyone around her like trash? Well, except for her AP and her own parents, I suppose. She is obviously treating me bad. She is treating me with zero respect and as if I was the worst husband ever. She claims she's been unhappy for several years, which I believe is complete crap. Anyway, to be honest, I don't care about what she's doing to me anymore. It's her life she's destroying, not mine, but it's also affecting other people. My father sent her the sweetest message he had ever sent in his entire life, and she didn't even reply with a thank you, just nothing. After my mom passed last February, my wife would regularly take my dad to an amusement park that's close by. They both have subscriptions for it, so they could go quite often. My dad really loved her a lot, and I'm watching him age by the hour now, which really hurts me. And my soon-to-be ex-wife doesn't even send a thank you, nothing at all. She left him on read. She was also, and said she wanted to remain very good friends with my younger sister, but they haven't been in touch for several weeks. Also, my wife was supposed to spend a day today with her best friend, who is a mutual friend of ours, but now she is ignoring her. Her best friend sent several messages to her yesterday, if today was still on, but my wife sent no reply, didn't even read her messages. She also didn't pick up the phone. So today they were supposed to meet. Same story. She doesn't pick up the phone. Her BFF sent one more message asking if she was still coming. No reply. She didn't even read the messages, while her WhatsApp status shows she's been online after she sent them. Needless to say, her BFF has been crying all day. She took the day off to spend with my wife to go shopping and having fun. And now this. Is this in any way normal behavior for someone in an affair fog? Or could this be something else? I don't care what my wife is doing. I'm done with her. But this is just so incredibly sad for her BFF. She's been crying on her couch all freaking day because my wife treats her like this. While I'm typing all this, another question comes to mind, but I think I already know the answer. My soon-to-be ex-wife is going around telling people we split up because we grew apart and she hasn't been happy for several years. I suppose this actually is normal for a cheater to tell everyone excuses and not being honest about what happened and how they fell in love with someone else. Oh, I almost forgot something that I believe is really important. Her BFF, our mutual friend, actually lived with us for about 6 months, from about November 2021 until April 2022. She just got out of a really bad relationship and had nowhere to stay. We have a spare room, so we took her in. Anyway, my wife and BFF literally talked about everything, including our relationship, sex life, everything. I speak to her BFF every day, and she has been super sweet and totally honest with me. I asked her if any of what my wife said could be true about not being happy with me for a longer period of time. BFF says it's all lies. Never has my wife ever spoken about it or said a single word to her about being unhappy with me. And keep in mind, they told each other everything, but not a single word about being unhappy. So either my soon-to-be ex-wife is just blatantly lying now. I don't know why. Maybe to justify her cheating on me and abandoning our marriage, or perhaps she kept her unhappy feelings a secret for literally everyone except herself. I honestly don't know, but from my experience, I never noticed her unhappy with me, and BFF also agrees with this. Many thanks again, everyone. The support is amazing, and I would not have been where I am now if it wasn't for your support. Edit. Well, I sincerely hope karma is going to hit her hard, rather sooner than later. Also, everyone that's reaching out to me about why we are getting a divorce, I tell the truth about her being a selfish cheater. Just yesterday, a female friend showed me texts between my wife and her. The conversation went something like, "Oh my God, honey, is it truth you and husband are separated?" Yes, sadly, this is the truth. Oh my God. No, what happened? Yeah, well, we just grew apart for the last few years and have different goals in life. We decided to end it. Needless to say, I corrected this and told our friend this is not truth. I told her my wife cheated on me, fell in love, she claims, and left me for another man. Everyone that hears the truth from me is shocked, by the way. No one, including me, would have ever thought my wife would do this. Update 3, we'll make a new post in a few weeks, I think. For now, I'm okay. Once I realized she is out there living her life without me, I started doing the same. I talked to my soon-to-be ex-wife several times, and the conclusion seems to be she still loved me, but it wasn't fun anymore. Not strange, since my mom unexpectedly died in February. She claims to be in love with AP, but with no strings attached. I never noticed anything about her being unhappy with me, and she even said she was not unhappy with me, but with life in general. So basically what I believe happened is she cheated, got feelings for AP, and left me for him. After that became clear, I made the choice to let her go and focus on myself. At this point, I honestly don't care about what she's doing and whether she'll come back or not. I'm fine either way. Work is going great. I joined a gym to which I've been going 3 times a week. My muscles hurt, and I've been talking to this amazing girl, which I knew from childhood, and even though it's only friendship, I'm really glad to have a female friend with whom I can talk about it all. She lost her dad last year, so even on the topic of losing a parent, we can relate. So yeah, I'm okay. As for the divorce, we had to gather a lot of documents, and they have been sent to this mediator. We are now waiting to hear back from him to schedule our next meeting and proceed with the divorce. As of right now, I've already made the decision that the divorce is happening, if soon-to-be ex-wife comes back or not. Divorce is going to happen because the marriage itself is over for sure. Update 4. We are going to sign our divorce papers and make it official 4 days from today. This is going to be a long post, as I haven't updated for about 4 months. Well, I made some mistakes along the run, and also made some moves that got me my power back and made me respect myself again. For starters, I can say that now, 5 months after the end tie and the initial shock, I hardly even think about the cheating anymore or I'm affected by it. So for anyone going through a rough time, please trust me, it does get better, and time really is on your side. So after the cheating and our breakup, I made mistakes. I begged and pleaded, got mad, frustrated, and really felt totally out of control and as if she had lost her mind. This lasted for about 2 months. Unfortunately, after this period, I made the decision to quit the whining. I told her I thought about everything a lot and came to the conclusion that I would still be open to seeing her and talking to her, that I thought there might still be a future for us, but I also told her I couldn't guarantee anything. I have not contacted her myself for the last 3 months, at least not about casual stuff or the relationship. The only things I reached out about were things regarding our upcoming divorce, financial, mutual house. I did not just sit around and wait during the last 3 months. I am now 32 years old, and for the first time in my life, I went to the gym to work out, muscle building to be exactly as I have always been, on the skinny side. I have been hitting the gym with full discipline. I train 4 times a week and have been doing so for the last 3 months. I am also seeing an increase in my muscle and aesthetics, but this goes further. Not only does the gym better my physical appearance, it also helps mentally. At first, I started working out to keep myself busy and distracted, but now, 3 months in, I look better and I feel a lot better about myself. I am regaining a level of confidence I didn't even know I had. So pro tip of the day, when you're going through a rough time, the gym really does seem to work, both physically and mentally. Regarding our mutual house, I spoke with the bank, and I am able to lend extra money and take on a higher mortgage. I have to pay my ex-wife about $65K for the house, but I am able to and I will do it. After signing everything and paying her, I will be 100% the owner of the mutual house, which is worth about $300K. I am not too happy about having to pay her $65K, but in the long run, I am way better off by owning my own house, which is worth about 5 times that amount. On top of that, she has no own house anymore. She officially lives with her mom again, but I know she's also staying at AP's house a lot. I am not contacting her, so how do I know? I'll get to that. My ex and me have a mutual friend. We never hang out all together, but we do speak regularly. As far as I know, my ex left me to be with AP and basically jumped straight into a new relationship. I'm not sure what's going on with my ex, and at times it does seem she actually has lost her mind. I try to keep my mind away from her, but sometimes the mind wanders where it shouldn't go. Also, at this moment, I suppose I could call AP by the name BF because that's basically what he is now. However, I will stick to AP because that's how it started anyway. About AP and ex-wife, karma is and it's starting to hit hard. When my ex and AP first got together 5 months ago, all seemed fine for them. However, tables are beginning to turn. AP is currently at home struggling with a depression, which I know for a fact because the mutual friend showed me screenshots of a conversation between my ex-wife and her. Also, the AP is currently out of a job. Even when everything first happened with the cheating and all, I always felt better than AP just because of his lack of morals, and I already had the belief he was worthless compared to me. Well, now I know for sure, which once again makes me feel like my ex-wife has lost her mind. I am not being arrogant, but I am absolutely sure that I am the catch and a way better man than her AP is. Little extra. At the start of their relationship, I was still contacting her and warned her. Well, guess I was right all along. Not only does he prove himself to be the loser I already kind of knew he was, he also brought something into her life that can devastate her. She is basically digging her own grave. AP introduced her to hard meds. I know this through the mutual friend. Haven't talked to my ex-wife about it. If she wants to ruin her own life, that's her business, but it seems to be going downhill fast. As for my ex-wife, I am certain she is struggling and possibly even doubting her own choices. I hadn't spoken to her or seen her during the holidays, Christmas, New Year's. However, about 1 week into the new year 2023, she out of the blue texted me if I was home and if she could come over. She came over to my house, and the visit was short, really only about 5 minutes. She came by to tell me she spent Christmas Day alone sobbing. She wanted to know how my holidays had been, and she asked me how I was doing. I told her my Christmas was okay, but not the greatest. I lost my mom last year, and these were the first holidays without mom. So of course it was just okay, but not all that great. But I did tell her I was doing great, which I actually am. So yes, for me this was weird. The only thing I can think about this whole visit and why would she care how I'm doing is if she perhaps does have regrets. Time will tell. I also spoke to my ex's mom. My ex-mother-in-law called me after New Year's to wish me a happy new year and to wish me all the best. I must admit, I did not expect that call, but it was nice to hear from her because she was family for the last 8 years. Mother-in-law told me my ex-wife hasn't been all that great lately. Apparently, she is very sad and crying a lot, mourning the marriage. My ex even said to mother-in-law, "I wish it wouldn't have to be like this." And once again, this implies to me that she is having second thoughts. However, only my ex has the power to reach out and make a move, which at this point I don't see happening anymore. The only power I really have is to give her the divorce she herself asked for and walk away and stay out of her life, which I did. I am removing myself from her life, giving her the divorce, and bettering myself every single day. Apologies for the long post, but I believe this is about everything I needed to get off my chest. For days from now, we are signing the divorce papers, and even though I am really doing great, of course, I am still only human, and from time to time still mourn our marriage and my ex-wife. I hate to see what has become of her, but I am also fully aware that it is out of my control and absolutely not my problem. Let me end this by once again thanking everyone in this community. Many thanks. Without your help, I wouldn't have been where I am now, both mentally and physically. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Before we start, if you're enjoying this video so far, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Now let's continue. She forgot to put on her pants before. You ask? No, I am not sure if I was happy or upset about the little preview I received. Ha! So, my son had left a toy or two at his playdate the other night, as he often does. Sometimes, I like to believe he does it on purpose just to get me out of bed. The main child he does playdates with is the child of my wife's friend. My wife and her friend are very close, for the record. This will matter later, so remember it. So anyway, right before I left the house, I'd let my wife know that I was headed out and where I was going. We exchanged goodbyes after she said she'd let her friend know I was headed over. When I arrive at her house and knock on the door, I hear footsteps going away from the door. I presume one of the older children looked through the peephole and went to get one of the parents. Not too long after, footsteps are heard and approaching the door. Then, the door started to unlock, and for some reason, I got kind of nervous. I had to remind myself I'm a grown man waiting to pick up a toy. Anyway, my wife's friend, we'll call her Katie, opens the door. To my surprise, she's got no pants on. Me being the loyal man that I am, I maintained eye contact as best as I could. I can't even lie, and she is just speaking to me as if nothing is wrong. I cough and look down to signal that she's not wearing any pants or even a towel, and she asks, "Something wrong?" I was speechless at that point. Right before I could answer, I noticed my wife, Alyssa, was calling because my ringtone was going off. I get my phone from my pocket, and Katie snatches the phone with her man-like strength. Right before she did, she was saying, "Oh, is that Alyssa? Let me talk to her." Not to be that guy, but part 2, if this does somewhat well, it only gets better from here. Thank me later. She forgot to put on her pants. So, after my wife's pantless friend snatched my phone, she immediately taps the answer button and gets to talking. My wife is wondering where I was and why another woman picked up my phone. I didn't even care for all that. I was just hoping the FaceTime call didn't show 2 specific things. 1, my very visible scared/nervous face, and 2, Katie's exposed legs. I'm not a very religious guy, but it seemed God was trying to tell me something because of what happened next. The phone vibrated, and she simply was not expecting that, I suppose, and she just fumbles it. First, it fell at an angle where it showed her legs, and then when it finally landed on the ground, all you saw was my dumb face in absolute shock. Let's just say I stopped by the bar before going home. Once I got home, I was prepping before I knocked in about 2 minutes, and am I prepping my wife? She just abruptly opens the door. She grabbed me by the ear, dragged me inside, and just started blurting every curse word available in the English dictionary. I was staggering with all of my words by the time she finally stopped. She went for a slap, but I learned all my mom's combinations when I was younger, so you best believe I evaded it. If you know, you know. Thankfully, after evading, I managed to spit out the words, "I didn't do anything." She went from angry demon wife to confused gentle wife. I explained everything, and she was on the couch and admitted how she may have made a fool of herself. I was clowning her afterwards because she didn't even take much accountability, but at the end of the day, that's my wife. My wife, Alyssa, then told me days later that she hashed it out with her friend, Katie. I don't know exactly what happened, but I bet it wasn't all love. Now on to the next story. Story 3. My half-sister wanted to show up in a wedding dress to my engagement party, so I changed the party theme. My half-sister, Heather, and I never really got along. We both are 24. My father left my mother for her mother, and we were born the same month, 20 days apart. It has always been weird. It doesn't help that Heather's mom hates me and my mom by extension. Heather and I didn't have the best relationship. She has always tried to one-up me, even though we both have a similar economic background. I see and give examples of this, but for the sake of the world limit, won't write them here. So now, my fiancé and I got engaged last month and had our engagement party this Saturday. We had planned it originally as a casual formal event, nice dresses, but not, I am going to the Met Gala ball nice. More like, we are going to a good restaurant nice. Anyway, my cousin hits me up saying she has to show me something. It was the picture of the dress Heather was going to wear. This dress, Jesus Christ, it can only be described as opulent. It was long and white, strapless, with sewn-in crystals and golden accents. I'm pretty sure it's a wedding dress, but I can't be 100%. This made me really mad, so I decided that I started texting people telling them that there had been a change of plans and that instead of casual formal, I decided to make a costume party. My mother's side is crazy for Halloween, so they were immediately on board. I told my father via text and asked for him to relay the message to Heather. Her mother, knowing full well that he would forget or leave it to the last minute. Saturday comes along, guests start showing up. Most of them in costumes, some didn't have time to get one. We just provided them with fun hats and cheap wigs. Heather, my dad, and her mother come like 1 hour late. As soon as she notices that everyone was either wearing elaborate costumes or weird accessories and she didn't stand out, she lost it. Especially when my fiancé came along and told her that her bride dress looked amazing for a cheap costume. She left crying, and her mother and my father told me that I was being childish and I could have told Heather myself and not have tasked my father. For those interested, my fiancé was dressed as Bubbles, and I was dressed as Mojo Jojo. My mom and aunts went as ABBA. Other memorable costumes were Luffy and Zorro, Ian Malcolm and John Hammond, and Jesus. Edit. So why did I invite her? It's one of those weird family situations where not inviting them would have been more dramatic. You know, when you try pleasing everyone. Plus, I still wanted a relationship with my father, so not inviting Heather and her mom would have made things super difficult and made it so my father would have had to choose. When I kept thinking of it, I noticed that my father wouldn't have chosen me in that scenario, which is why I ended up cutting them off. You let her win? No. The point of this is to ruin my half-sister's intention. She wasn't just dressed nicely, as some of you put it. She wore a wedding dress to my engagement party. I'd much rather subvert this whole mess rather than have her smugly sitting at the table with her wedding dress. Also, some of you are really hung up on the cheap wigs part and ignore literally everything else regarding starting the party. A minority of our guests wore those cheap wigs. Also, it literally doesn't matter. We had a blast after she left. I didn't even think of her again until a few days later. I don't regret the costume party. I wish I thought of it earlier, tbh. This is a Kara Wing repost. No, it isn't. I posted this story before on Aita. I just had to wait 2 weeks to post on here. Also, I can't believe I have to say this, but the lady on the picture is not Heather. It's also not the dress she wore. I looked for a picture that looked approximately like the dress. I don't care if you are from Fox or Boar Panda or BuzzFeed or whatever paper. No, I won't give you an exclusive interview. This is not even newsworthy. WTF kind of journalism is that supposed to be? Edit. I didn't think I would have to mention that I have indeed tried to talk to Heather, her mother, and my father a million times about her behavior. It never helps, and she just does something more outrageous. All the ways of diplomacy and dialogue have been exhausted, and so am I, lol. Some people seem to think this is about my wedding. It's my engagement party. Heather wasn't the one to show me what she was going to wear. My cousin did. Also, this is not about Heather wearing a nice dress. Heather was going to wear something that looked suspiciously like a wedding dress. The dress code stated casual formal, not white tie. And for the curious, my fiancé dressed as Bubbles, and I went as Mojo Jojo. My mom and aunts went as ABBA. My cousin was Monkey D. Luffy, and his husband was Zoro minus the katanas. Update. I had planned countless times to update this post. I even asked the mods if it was allowed, but I was too lazy and always stopped halfway through. To the update, I got married. It was an eventful and thankfully drama-free day. My father was not in attendance. After my engagement party, I realized that he would never choose me willingly. Even if he loves me, he doesn't love me enough to stand up for me. He constantly allows his wife and daughter to walk over me and even become abusive. So I wrote him a lengthy email from my old school days email account. It detailed my resentful feelings against him and uninvited him from the wedding. Then I logged out because I know myself. I would be upset with his answer, and if he wouldn't answer, I would also be upset. I also blocked him and his family from all access, and I went cold turkey, freezing even. I changed phone providers and deleted my social media accounts for a while. He did try to contact me through my mother. She said it was just upsetting, so I told her I did not want to. So I just cut him off. And boy, my life improved drastically. We had an amazing wedding. Unhinged things that happened after the wedding. I got a cease and desist letter from my half-sister. It was very vague and weird, but we quickly found out that it was only a Google copy pasta. My stepmother followed me to the supermarket and tried to intimidate me to apologize to Heather. She made the produce wildly uncomfortable. My father tried to pick me up at work. He was walking next to me while I went to my car. He was trying to get me to apologize to Heather and her mom. He said that I should be the bigger person and that I know how both of them are. So I just told him that he must be mistaken because my father is dead. He just stood there as I drove off. Then they started to bother the rest of the extended family. Heather and her mom apparently wanted them to cut me off, which backfired spectacularly because now they are cut off, which also means that they are excluded from a lot of family events that they weren't looking forward to. Plus, they can't use my uncle's cabin. So Heather's mom had allegedly been at her sister's since the whole breakdown. I have to be honest, I don't know how much of this is true. As you know, the toxic gossip train always has to be taken with a grain of salt. I don't know, but I think it's funny. A sad thing is that I don't even miss my father. His absence has made zero negative effect on my life. We did have one more costume party around Halloween, but this time we gave everyone more time, and it was even more fun. My mom's side of the family all pitched in. We got a venue and invited a bunch of people. I recommend this totally. I met so many of my cousin's friends who I have kept in touch with. Nothing else has changed. I still have my old job. I am not pregnant. We have the same old apartment. We did redecorate though, so that is all for me. Not all too dramatic. Now on to the next story. Story 4. So, I, 27, female, have an older sister, 31, female, who I haven't been in touch with for the past 7 years. We didn't have a fallout or fight. We weren't in touch because she just disappeared one day several years ago. My sister dumped her twin toddlers at my place and told me that she'd be back at the end of the day after running some errands. Her kids were 1.5 years old at the time, and I agreed to watch over them for a while because it wasn't uncommon for my sister to ask me to babysit her kids if I was at home and she had work to do, or if I was unavailable. Our parents had passed away when we were both young, like when we were 10 or something, and we'd been brought up by our maternal aunt, 47, female. I believe that when my aunt brought the kids to my place, she couldn't take them because she was sick at that time. I was almost done with college and living with my friends in an apartment. They were out celebrating, so I stayed back. I took care of the kids for a while, but after 9 o'clock, I got worried because my sister was very late. I tried calling her many times, but the calls didn't work, and she didn't reply to my texts. I waited a bit more, then asked my aunt for help. She tried calling my sister too, but her calls couldn't get through either. I checked my sister's social media, but it was all turned off, so I couldn't contact her there either. My friends came back around 11 o'clock at night and also tried calling her, but no luck. In the end, I had to accept that maybe my sister didn't plan on coming back that day, but that one day turned into a week, then a month, a year, and finally 6 whole years. My aunt and I reported her missing 24 hours after we couldn't find her. We didn't want to think she did this on purpose and didn't want to return. It sucked, but a few months later I did come to terms with it. My sister and I weren't particularly close growing up, since she was different from me, but I still loved her like family does. She turned into a bit of a party animal in high school and decided not to attend college. Instead, she moved in with her high school boyfriend in a small apartment at 19 and got a job instead, which is okay, but they'd waste a lot of their income unnecessarily and had no sense of responsibility. Most of it would go into drinks at clubs, clothes and makeup, and her boyfriend's sneaker collection, so she'd asked my aunt for rent much too often for her liking, and that increased when she got knocked up and had to go to the doctors frequently. Fortunately, my aunt could afford it since she ran a successful business and had never had any husband or kids of her own. We were all the family she had, so she did it without complaint, but I could tell that she wasn't pleased with my sister's lifestyle because she'd look very disappointed whenever my sister would come around asking for money. So, I made up my mind to work harder to not let her down. Of course, eventually, my sister disappeared along with her boyfriend, and none of their friends knew where they'd gone either, so we just had to make our peace with the fact that they probably wouldn't come back for a long time, or maybe ever. I didn't know whether she was even alive up until last week. 6 years have passed, and now I'm an investment banker, and I'm living with my aunt in my childhood home. My aunt and I had repurchased the house I grew up in with my parents recently and have been living here ever since. My aunt and I had pretty much accepted that my sister wasn't going to come back, but then she made a sudden reappearance last week and took us both by surprise. She'd been back for 3 weeks and had asked a few of her old friends to help her find us, and she finally had. She seemed happy to see us at first, but my aunt and I had mixed feelings. You don't just disappear for 6 years without warning, then come back and expect everything to be just the same. We tried to be polite and civil to her, but the conversation was strained at best. We didn't ask her where she'd been because, honestly, it didn't feel like there was a point, and she didn't offer to explain herself either. After some time, she asked about her kids and wanted to see them again, but her kids didn't live with us. My aunt and I took care of them for almost a month after she disappeared. I was a college student, and my aunt worked, so we couldn't manage to care for them full-time. We were old enough to take care of ourselves, but the kids needed constant attention. I had to study, and my aunt couldn't manage both work and kids. So after nearly a month, we had to make a tough choice to let another family adopt them. Since they were technically abandoned, they were free to be adopted after a long process. A kind couple named Adam and Martha adopted them. We still keep in touch and visit the kids. I didn't tell my sister everything because I knew it would upset her, and I didn't want her to bother Adam, Martha, or the kids. I just told her we had to give them up for adoption when she left them with me without sharing the rest. When I told her, she thought I was joking at first, but my aunt and I were serious. It wasn't a funny situation. Eventually, she realized we were telling the truth and got very upset with us. She was just hysterical. She began to scream at us, told us that we were cruel and heartless monsters and whatnot, and then started sobbing violently. My aunt and I let her throw a tantrum, but after she seemed to calm down a bit, I asked her to leave since we had nothing to talk about anymore. She did leave, but she was still crying, and it was really disturbing to see her that way because she wasn't a very emotional or expressive person, so for her to completely break down in front of us was a pretty big deal. My aunt and I didn't know how to react to this and decided that we just weren't going to talk about it at all. It was draining enough that my sister had shown up after so long and had expected things to have remained the same after 6 long years, and then screamed at us for doing what anyone else in their sane minds would have done. Neither of us wanted to discuss it even more and just make it worse for us, so we didn't talk about it and pretended it never happened. But yesterday, I received an email from my sister, and she said a lot of things that I feel like I have to talk about. My aunt has a lot to deal with because her business is doing exceedingly well, and I don't want to disturb her or ruin her vibe right now by bringing this crap up. So I'm here instead. My sister said that she'd been counting on me, and she trusted me to keep her kids safe and sound when she was away, but I failed her by abandoning them. She was disappointed in me and wanted me to help her find her kids so that she could take them back with her now. She also wanted my aunt and I to apologize to her for behaving badly with her the other day if we wanted her to be a part of our lives. She ended the email by saying that she'd be waiting for a reply and told me to make it quick because she wanted to see her kids as soon as possible. The email reeked of entitlement, and I lost my cool after I read it because it was just disgusting. She hadn't even told us where she'd been for the past 6 years, but for whatever reason, she now expected my aunt and me to act like we were family again. In the heat of the moment, I replied to the email saying that she did her kids a favor by leaving them at my place and then disappearing from all of our lives because now, at least those poor kids have a chance of having a better life that she herself would never have been able to provide for them. I told her that she would have been a terrible mother to her kids, and they're lucky that they escaped her, and sent that email in the evening. My aunt came to my room and told me that my sister's boyfriend had just called her. Her business contact info is listed on her website, and that's the number he called. He told her that she'd received and read the mail that I'd sent and was beside herself with grief. She'd had a total mental breakdown and kept repeating that she wanted her kids back and had to be sedated because that's how grief-stricken she was. I feel really guilty now and feel like I was a little excessive with what I said. It was too harsh for telling my sister that her kids were lucky that she'd abandoned them because they have better parents now. Update 1. Hi folks. Firstly, I just want to thank everyone who responded to the original post. Sending love to everyone with messed up families and psychotic sisters. I know it's not easy, but we deal with it somehow. It's been 3 days since I posted, and the response has been overwhelming. Now, I know I'm not at fault here, and whatever I said in that email was 100% true. It's not my fault that she had a breakdown because she brought that on to herself by abandoning her kids with no explanation. She never even bothered to communicate that she wanted me to take care of them during the time that she'd be gone. She lied to me and told me that she'd be back to take them at the end of the day, so I'd signed up to babysit them for a couple of hours, not for the next 6 years of my life. As much as I love my nephews, babies are quite a handful, and I couldn't have them around while also working towards my future. I didn't agree to that, so it was just crazy for my sister to even expect that her kids would still be living with me after 6 years. And now, a couple of things about her email that I just have to address and get it all off my chest. I didn't abandon her kids. If anything, I helped them out by leading them to better and more obvious parents who actually care for them enough and take better care of them than my sister did. My sister is the one who abandoned them at my place and went off to God knows where for 6 years. Also, she still hasn't told us where exactly she'd been, and honestly, I don't care enough to ask either. But if she doesn't even care, then it's kind of entitled of her to expect that we owe her anything at all, let alone help find her kids. As for an apology, she can pretty much forget about it because I don't want her to be a part of my life anymore. She hasn't been a part of my life for years, and I'll be just fine if she continues to not be a part of my life. It's been 3 days, and we haven't heard from her or her boyfriend again, and I'm okay with that. People can call me heartless, but I don't care about what happened to her after the breakdown. My aunt and I faced several difficulties after she left and were worried sick for many a day, but she didn't bother to check on us either, so why should I extend the same courtesy to her? My sister can play the victim all she wants, but I know for a fact that in this situation, she's far from the victim. She's the one who created this mess, and she now has to deal with the aftermath of it herself. I can't even imagine how entitled and delusional a person has to be to act out and throw a tantrum after abandoning her own kids and then finding out that they've been adopted by a better family. At least we want to have them in my office since they deserve to know. I don't know what exactly they're going to do to deal with this, but I trust them and know that they love the kids with all their heart, and even more, they won't let them come in harm's way. And by harm, I mean my sister. Adam was concerned when I told him and pleaded with me not to let her know who her kids had been adopted by, but I reassured him that he had nothing to worry about because she might be their biological mother, but they were the kids' actual parents, and nothing could take that away from them, not even my sister. That seemed to pacify them a bit, and I actually regretted not letting them know earlier, but I just didn't want them to panic unnecessarily. But it's all right. They know now, and I'm hoping that my sister stays away from all of us after this. Update 2. Okay, so my sister decided to get in touch with me again today. It's the weekend, so my aunt and I were both at home, and she showed up at our house about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We didn't even want to open the door to her because this was getting increasingly ridiculous with every week that passed, and we told her to leave through the intercom, but she told us that she wasn't leaving until we informed her where her kids were right now. Obviously, we cannot give out that information without prior permission to anyone at all, especially not to her. So we told her that we didn't know and that if she didn't leave, then we'd call the police and make her leave forcefully. And then she began to plead with us. She started saying stuff like she only wanted to see them one time, and she didn't even care if she had to see them from a distance, but she just had to get one look at them. There was a lot of pain in her voice, and I could see through the cameras that she was literally on her knees. It broke my heart because, no matter what happened, I'm still a human being, and I did feel sorry for her. I felt awful, but I tried to steel myself by reminding myself of what she'd done in the past and thought of the kids before telling her for the last time that she needed to leave or I really would call the police and report her for trespassing. But she continued to cry right on the doorstep. I was left with no other option and was forced to call the police, who arrived 15 minutes later and took her away. But even then, she put up a fight and had to be taken away kicking and screaming. My aunt had just sat through the whole thing silently with her head in her hands, and I can't even blame her because this is just heartbreaking. Not because my sister can never get her kids back, but because my aunt literally raised us both, and now she has to watch one of the kids she raised completely fall apart right in front of her eyes, and she couldn't even do anything to fix things. She just had to watch it all happen and let it go. Can't have been easy for her to watch my sister in that state. Neither had it been easy for me, and it's just really disturbing because I know she's suffering a lot right now. But she has nobody else to blame for this situation except herself. I don't know why exactly she disappeared, but no matter what the reason was, I highly doubt it makes what she did any more forgivable. I just want her to go back to wherever she was, not out of hatred, but simply because I don't have the emotional strength to watch my sister break down over and over again and cause someone else this amount of pain. I just can't do this again and again. I might even have to start looking at lawyers to get a restraining order against her. I don't know how effective that will be or even if I qualify for it because this is technically not a dangerous situation that we're in, but we never know. Things can go south really quickly, more so with my sister, especially since she's clearly very emotionally volatile right now. I just don't know what to do or what to think, and I'm absolutely numb right now. Nothing feels the same anymore after my sister's return, and I highly doubt I can go back to living my usual life again. In a way, it's ironic that she first disrupted all our lives by disappearing, and she's currently doing the same thing with her reappearance. It puts into perspective how selfish she actually is and how she can never be bothered to think about literally anyone except herself. I hope she and her boyfriend have been able to make something of themselves in the last 6 years because I just want them to go away now. I don't even care where she'd been or where she went. I just want her gone. And for good, because nothing is going to come out of her return. Update 3. My sister just sent me another email 5 hours ago, and I came back home immediately after reading it and saw my aunt to do the same after forwarding it to her. 2 days have passed since the last update, and today we finally received an explanation as to where my sister had been for the last 6 years of our lives. So, 7 years ago, a month or so before she disappeared, her boyfriend's uncle offered him a job for free at his hotel in Miami, but he'd made it very clear that he couldn't bring his kids along. My sister was still welcome if she could make herself useful in some way, so she went with him, and the two of them started working there for a much higher salary than what they made here. She didn't tell us anything about it because she believed that if my aunt found out about what she was earning, then she might ask her to repay all the money that my aunt had helped her out with. Out of fear and greed, she kept her mouth shut about where she'd gone. Over time, they'd worked hard and been promoted, and they'd finally saved enough to start a business of their own in Miami, which is what they were about to do. But first, they decided to take a trip back here so that they could finally take their kids back with them. They hadn't had the foresight to think that we might have actually given their kids up for adoption because my sister was sure that my aunt and I loved them too much to let them go anywhere else. So, she'd been counting on us to look after them in her absence and raise them well so she could take over whenever she'd be able to, which happens to be now. But there was just one hitch in her brilliant plan, and that was that she hadn't even told us anything about this and had disappeared without a word. She'd probably forgotten that my aunt and I were real human beings with minds of our own and not just robots who would follow whatever she'd programmed us to without questioning it at all. So now, she was begging us through her email to at least let us see her kids before she went back and keep in touch with the adoptive parents so she could have some degree of contact with her kids. I don't fully understand what the intention of this email was. Probably to make us realize that she'd been working through these years and that would suddenly make us have a change of heart or something. But if that really was the intended impact of her story, then my sister has failed miserably. She didn't talk to us for 6 whole years because she was too afraid that my aunt would ask us to pay her back, which is just so insane. First of all, my aunt is the last person to ask us for money, and even if she had, my sister should have had the gratitude to do it without question because she owed it to our aunt. Also, on top of that, I don't think any parent who's ready to abandon their kids for 6 years without even looking back to check on them for the sake of a couple of extra bucks deserves any sympathy. Least of all not someone as materialistic and shallow as my sister. Whatever she'd done was unforgivable, and her story just made it worse. But at least now we don't have to feel sorry for her anymore. She's just a despicable excuse of a human being, and my aunt and I decided to block her without even a response because that's just what she deserves. We've also told Adam and Martha about the email, and if they are willing to opt for legal action against her to prevent her from harassing us any further, then we'll definitely be joining them. My aunt and I are disappointed that she turned out this way, but we're not surprised in the slightest. We're surprised that she and her boyfriend were able to make something of themselves, but that's about it. If they try anything funny with us after this, then they'll be looking at a restraining order, but I don't suppose she'll risk that since she has her new business to look forward to now. I wish she would just go back and never return. I don't want to see her ever again. Now on to the next story. Story 5. My girlfriend of 2 years won't forgive me for cheating on my ex-fiancé. I'm at a loss, so I know this sub often quotes, "Once a cheater, always a cheater." I agree and disagree at the same time. I cheated on my ex-fiancé when I was 24. I had recently found out, after my mother passed, that she was not actually my mother but my grandmother. My junkie sister, who OD'd when I was 15, was actually my bio mom. My fiancé at the time, Alma, told me that I needed to get over it because there was nothing I could do. She stopped wanting to talk to me, even if it was about her day, and I felt emasculated constantly. She refused to have sex for months at a time and I withdrew. We both stopped trying, but neither of us was ready to let go, as we were high school sweethearts and were afraid of being without each other. Long story short, I had a one-night stand. In the moment, it felt nice that someone was interested in my day, in me, and found me sexually attractive. And then it felt like someone dropped a boulder on me. I told Alma immediately the day after, and we split up. I am by no means proud of myself for cheating, I felt sick to my stomach looking at myself and took a year to reevaluate my life. I moved apartments, hit the gym, ate better, tried Buddhism, and now I feel better. Alma and I even got together after the year to talk things out. She apologized for pulling away, and I apologized for cheating. We forgave each other. We'll never be great friends again, but I feel better knowing that we won't cringe when we see the other person. I met my now girlfriend, Sasha, at a mutual friend's party. I got her number and we really hit it off. When we broached the conversation about past relationships, I told her what happened between me and Alma. I told her that if she had any questions or if this made her feel uncomfortable, then to let me know. She seemed fairly understanding, though she had never cheated or been cheated on, and we continued to have a wonderful relationship. We moved in together in November. About the end of February, she started to become increasingly curious about the cheating. She asked me if the one-night stand and I ever talked after, if she knew I had a fiancé, if Alma wanted to try and work things out, if I ever tried to get with other women in relationships, etc. I answered her honestly and let her know that if she's concerned that I'm going to cheat again, I'll keep my electronics and such open to her. Things seemed to be all right for a bit until I noticed that Sasha was compulsively going through my electronics. She didn't ask me any more questions regarding my infidelity, but just became very jealous and controlling. For example, 3 weeks ago, I had to take my computer to the shop because it had been acting buggy. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories. It's helping us a lot. Come to find out that a key logger of some sort had been installed on my computer. I brought this up to Sasha and she asked why I took my computer in, that it worked fine for her, and that maybe it downloaded when I went on to some porn site. Another example would be Alma messaging me on Facebook last week, wondering why I sent her and another girl from high school text messages. I had no idea what she was talking about, and she sent me screen caps from a cell phone number that's obviously, the texts weren't inappropriate, but obviously out of place. They just tried to strike up a conversation, but were obviously not done in my tone. Again, I asked Sasha, and she seemed genuinely clueless and baffled. I checked my online account, and it confirmed that the messages were sent from my phone. Yesterday, Sasha and I went out to celebrate her friend Danielle's promotion. When Sasha went to the bathroom, Danielle brought up cheating. She told me about this ex that cheated on her all the time and cheated in all of his relationships. Once a cheater, you know? I told her that for some people that's true, but I think once a cheater should be reflective of the relationship that someone cheated in. I always know Alma will see me as a cheater. I can't take that away, but I never want to cheat again. I never want to step into a relationship and be treated like a cheater. I explained this to Danielle without referencing my past infidelity. She laughed and told me I deluded myself and that Sasha better keep her eye on me. Sasha came back, and I excused myself and told Sasha I felt sick and wanted to go home. She wanted to stay and said I could just Uber. I Ubered home and watched some Netflix. Sasha came home a little tipsy and began to slightly ask if I came home immediately or if I detoured. I asked her why she was being so distrustful, as I felt I kept communications open to her and have not given her reason to not believe me. She went silent, then excused herself to go to bed. When I joined her, she was on her laptop and slammed it shut when I entered the room. Today, I'm fuming. I've done everything I feel I can to help alleviate any worries of cheating. I've done my best to be a better person than who I once was. I'm at a loss and don't know if this is a normal reaction when you date someone who once cheated. Is this worth salvaging with Sasha? Or should I just cut and run? We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.